However, last time I tried to embed it in resin and that didn't go well, so this time I thought maybe instead of a floating fish, I can make it land-bound. Which, of course, means arms and legs. As always, the first step in making a fully limbed dinosaur-sized semi-aquatic land-based deep-sea creature is making an appropriately sized armature. Normally I try to find an anatomical drawing of whatever creature I'm making so I can get an approximation of proper body proportions prior to building, but oddly enough I couldn't find any good examples of fully limbed anglerfish, so I'm just kinda making this up as I go. I do, however, know that I'd like to try and make her headlight glow, which means I'm going to run some of this high heat resistant wiring along the lure and down her legs, which will allow me to add an LED towards the end of the sculpting process. Otherwise, with her armature in place, it's time to get to sculpting, which as always starts by slapping an initial layer of clay over all the shiny bits of her body to give me a nice solid form to build on top of. I'll gussy up her bottom lip a bit before bringing in some aluminium bits that I can use to stand her on top of in a menacing pose. I know I'm going to give her a fresh out the water look with fins and webbed feet, so I want to make her base appropriately coastal, and my plan, in as much as I ever have one, is to have these eventually rocky blocks be embedded in a little bit of water. For now, I'll give them a quick initial coating of Super Sculpey to make sure they'll keep their shape, and I can set them aside for later while I get to work working on Angela's finer details. Oh yeah, I decided calling her over and over again was a bit rude, and saying anglerfish was a bit of a mouthful, so her name instead became Angela Bedford Brown, which then of course was a bit of a mouthful in and of itself, so I've simply shortened that to Angela. Regardless, Angela's bottom side gets a bunch of seemingly random wrinkles and skin folds to create a bit of variation underneath. Then I'll move to the inside of her mouth, adding lots of sausages and wormy dealies mirrored on both sides to create some nice goopy, swirly, nightmare-inducing oral interior texture. Eventually, her mouth is looking horrifying enough for my needs, so I can set her aside for a few minutes while I finish making my rocks. I'll make sure to cover the entirety of this shiny metal with a layer of clay before haphazardly bashing the fake rocks with actual rocks to impart a bit of rocky texture, and well, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'll then give them a quick bake, and I can fit Angela into the pre-poked leg holes, which will hold her body aloft while I add the rest of her external detail. I'll start said external detail by pressing some oversized, protruding eyeballs into the front of her face just below her unicorn horn, then wrap them in some little skinny wormy dealies to create lots of eye wrinkles. I'll blend these back into the existing clay as well as into one another to create a nice clean look, then I'll work my way around the rest of her body, adding semi-random dips and hooks and swirls and indents to make her look a little less smooth and clean. Then it's backed with a teeny tiny ball stylus to add lots and lots of little, less than perfect details and textures around her body before covering her lure in a thin layer of clay and blasting her body with a heavy dosing of isopropyl alcohol. This will soften the topmost layer of clay so I can brush out any of the imperfections and tooling marks, and then I'll follow this initial brushing with a poking and prodding of a softer brush to give her a final, porous, skin-like texture. Then it's back down to her mouth where I can attach a big bottom gum line, which I'll poke lots of divots into so I can fit a collection of randomly sized pre-baked teeth I made off camera out of translucent clay.